Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Talking Tuesdays. And as you know, that our topic for today is let's talk about the intention of conception. A lot of you had requested us for this particular topic, and here we are talking about it. So let's just wait for Divya to join us. Hi, everyone. Hi, Divya.
Hi, Tanvi. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, such an interesting topic, isn't it?
It is a fabulous topic.
Okay, then good afternoon, everybody. This is My Child First Live. We're talking Tuesday, and today we're talking about intention of conception. It seems so simple, no? At the face of it, it may seem that here is a mom and a dad who now say, "Oh, we've been married for X numbers of years, and this is where we are at in our life. Maybe it's time to have a baby." Is that intention? That may be a checklist and that may be an intention, but we really don't know. So today we want to dig deeper as to what actually is an intention. And before we can even talk about that, I want to start with saying one of my favorite quotes, that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Pre and perinatal psychology research shows us that we have an awareness, a sense of knowing, if you please, a witnessing consciousness even before we are conceived. And how do we know that? We know that because in spontaneous recalls, people have gone back to the time when they are looking at their own conceptions or before they had conceived. So they see this couple, who are making love. And the detail is not about the act that they're doing. The detail is
Divya, your voice
about
is cracking a little.
how,
I'm not able to hear.
really, is it just you or everybody else? I'm supposed to be on a brand new, very exciting. Okay, let me just check that out. Is that better?
Your, yeah, uh,
Is it better?
little bit, but your picture is a little pixelated. Yes,
Okay, give me a second. I'm just
can
gonna
hear.
log off and log back in. Just give me a second.
Okay, sure, sure. Apologies, everyone. Divya was having some tech issues, so she's logging back and logging in. Just hang in there for us, please. Can't hear you. Your
No,
screen's
doesn't
frozen
seem to
too.
be any better. Is it any better now? I
No.
just changed to my one second.
Sorry, just bear with us, please, for a minute.
Okay, let's try one more time. I thought we may not have so many trouble. I've got a brand new internet connection, but it seems like we're still having the same problems. Okay, can you
Okay, we
hear me
can hear
now?
you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so pre and perinatal research shows that people have an awareness of their being before they have mortal form. Now, having said that, if we were to just simply simplify it, it would come down to say that there is an energetic quality to us which is beyond our measurement right now. I'm just putting the time qualitative. Maybe in a few years, few decades, few centuries, we know that quality as well. But we have this concept of consciousness in many, many different modalities. And so we start to say that if we are conscious beings and we have a my intention may be completely different, or I may be thinking of plans of life, career, education, but my so in an African tribe, the mother hears the baby's song. And then she goes to the jungle or solitude to meditate, to refine that song. And once she knows that song, maybe she creates it, maybe I don't know what that is, but once she knows that song, she comes back and then she conceives. And then when she conceives, she teaches that song to every member of the tribe, which they sing to guide the baby into the earth that we are here. So think of it as a consciousness, an awareness of another um, sentient being saying, I wish to manifest and I'm choosing you as the mother. But to guide them into this realm, they sing a song. In Indian scriptures, we have something called Garbadan Sanskar. So married couples, when they are ready to have a baby, and it's important that both the mother and father are ready. So we're talking about is such an evolved concept of readiness or choice from parents here, not some tick on a biological clock checklist. But when they are ready, they do this little prayer inviting this baby into their lives. And the quality of that intention may be join us, or we're offering. Maybe before that, they may prepare their home, they may resolve their financial issues, they may look after their emotional issues. Not quite different from what we are doing today, saying when we are planning a baby, we detox our body, we get healthier. So therein lies your intention. I'm preparing. But is it just physical body that you have to prepare? Is it just emotional self you have to prepare? Is there just spiritual self? Or perhaps there are these entanglements that we carry from generation to generation through consciousness, through pass on of a legacy, a heritage that we're also preparing with. So we're going to come back to intention in that sense. But we see that it's there in Native Americans. So a lot of old cultures actually recognize this power of intention. If you look at the scientific way of looking at it, you see Bruce Lipton talking about biology of belief. What does that mean? So very simply put, he says that your cell, every cell is important because you are a collection or a community of cells. And every cell senses its surroundings, and through the membrane, it picks up the signals that are relevant for survival. And then the DNA gets modified for the next cell to be reproduced. So, our cells create new cells. And next cell may be a little bit different from what the previous one was, even though it has the same DNA, simply because the environment says something different. If you look at the science of it, if you look at the research around it, or study around it, and then if you look at what is happening in the world around us today, we find that intention is quite powerful. But unfortunately, we think that when we're talking about intention, energy, spirituality, it is a different world than when we are talking about science and body. But they're not different from each other. So, the question we want to ask you is, where does your spirit, if you're a spiritual being, where does your spirit reside? What is your mind? Is it your brain? Is it in your body? Is it outside your body? What is going on? And we realize that the spirit is like a resonating frequency, so to speak, around which matter will coalesce in a certain form, if you to take it really simply. And we see those patterns in so many different things. It's like a tuning, a certain frequency is going on. Good example is that if you take one of those big speakers with the membrane on top, and you put some sand, and as you play different music, you find that the sand jumps up and comes down in different patterns. So every frequency that we have on energy might have a certain pattern around it. If you look at cellular biology, this is a very interesting article that I read, and then thereafter I try to verify it as well. And they say that the narrative of the world is that the sperm penetrates the egg. So, even in our narration of conception, we find that the egg is passive. But what scientists have proved in the lab is that the egg is holding a nice strong boundary, and there are millions of sperms which are just all over, but it's not opening up. And then there is one cell that matches the frequency. Where did the frequency of the egg come from? The intention of the mother, the energetic quality of the mother. And where did the frequency of the sperm come from? I would say that's the energetics of the father. And when they match in per se, but that's just two halves. Two halves don't make a whole. We say the sum of parts. There is a certain mystery, which is the intention of the baby to come into this world, that brings them together. So the egg literally opens up its boundary, pulls in the sperm, and then shuts its boundary again, saying, okay, that's the one I want. And when I was reading it, I remembered in old Amar Chitra Kathas as a child, when I'd read, we would say that the king held a swimwear for his daughter, and all the suitors came. And then she set up a certain task. I will, what she valued in that man. And she said, I will do somebody who can string a bow or hit the eye of the fish. And so everybody then, expressed their talents. And then she chose the one quality that she wanted, and then she would get that. And the egg kind of expresses the same swimwear of these sperms all around. But going back to the intention. So when we say conception, I want to have a baby, your thought of your wanting to have a baby, the cognitive thought of your baby might be much later than the whole energetic intention of your body. That is why a lot of women get pregnant without planning. They would get married. Now, if these women get married, then they're enjoying, intimacy with their husbands, and then they find themselves pregnant, and they're quite welcoming of that pregnancy. And then there are women who say, no, we want to wait. And they're very clear or aligned in themselves about their purpose. And they wait. And then when they are ready, lo and behold, they get pregnant. And then we hear of women who have trouble conception. And then, we've been doing coffee cons, Tanvi, and we've been hearing how Reba said that she got into a relationship with herself, and she was really, clear on when she wanted to have a child. And then we heard Gitanjali say that the journey to get a child through her infertility, she discovered herself. So, the intention might come when they align themselves, the inside of them and the outside of them, the energetics of them and the bodily functions of them. And when that alignment comes, the mother just says, I'm ready. She doesn't say, I want a child. And we'll come to that bit in a bit. So I'm ready. It's an invitation. It's an openness, not I want. I want cannot be an intention. I'm ready is an offering to the baby, like an invite. And for dads also, they may not understand what it means to have a baby. And, most men, if you talk about having a baby, they'll always say, okay, well, that's way out of my comfort zone. Of course, there are some who are completely wanting a child. But the idea is not that. The idea is that, has this couple discussed this? Are they on the same page? Is there an alignment? The egg and the sperm, the on the same frequency is a representation of this family being on the same frequency. And then he also offers to say, I'm aligned, so we're welcoming a baby. Unfortunately, the narrative becomes, oh, now we are so much, and now we've decided to have
Now we're all
a baby,
settled
and now we're going to try and have a baby.
yeah.
And then we say, where is the baby? Where is the intent or the will of that other human being who is now going to trust you to come into your life and believe that you're going to look after him? And if you want to look at through a certain philosophy of karma, if you believe in rebirth and that kind of thing, then maybe he's choosing something that is in line with his purpose. But if you want to think of a single life, which is fine, even so, free will. The other side, there is the concept of free will. I choose to be with you. And so we can only offer as parents. And I think that's our first lessons in terms of intention setting and opening ourselves, is to say we're offering, which means we don't own our children. They've chosen us. And how do you offer an intention of, loving somebody? You offer love. That is the substratum of human existence. We know that love buffers stress. We know that love buffers trauma. We know that love heals human hurt. Love. It is that quality that touches us on so many levels. And what are we offering? Unfortunately, we have categorized love as well as a boundary. But in its true nature, love is unconditional. I give you. I offer you, because offering you brings me joy. So it is still an interdependent relationship, but that offering may or may not be received in the way you want. So if I have an intention as a mother to love a child, then my love begins with that intention. And then I hear that baby's song, and then I make that song, and then that's my song too. So, somewhere we have to think or explore or even hear, what am I feeling? Is it love? Do I want to give or do I want to get? And that's a subtle intentional difference in having a baby. Or, how do I experience love in this world? Do I feel the lack of it? Does it have to be proven to me? Is there a certain boundary to it? Or is there a certain way it can be expressed? Or is it just a joy that bubbles through me? Of course there's love in the world. How do I see the world? A lot of healing work can bring you in alignment with yourself, and that might be an intention. So the intention is very clear here. I find that I am a little bit holding back on love, or I'm finding the lack of love. So I'm going to work on myself so that I can give you unconditional love. That's an intention. And that's a wonderful intention. Biology isn't always about getting the egg and sperm. Even if we put it in a test tube or a petri dish, we don't know that whether the egg will receive the baby, the sperm. We don't know whether this embryo will make a choice to implant and go to a full this thing. So these are the intentions of parents who are now adults, parents who seek to explore human experience through love of an innocent child, to take the responsibility, to accept that privilege of being responsible for another child. And that would be an intention sitting for a man or a woman, the father's intention or the mother's intention. The baby's intention is even more sophisticated. So if you read the Ayurveda text, they say, and I say this many times because it was so profound for me to hear it. It says that the baby, the consciousness in the fetus or the baby, the unborn child, arises in 4th month. And we know that research says that it actually exists. There is a certain sense of awareness, a dispassionate third person awareness. So, you're still contemplating, I like this house, I like the neighborhood. Should I live here or not? Maybe, let's see. They're still developing it. Let's see how the final shape of it is. Let's see how so you're kind of undercover trying to check out the whole neighborhood and see if that would be suitable, not happy. Happiness can also be a big burden. Suitable life for me. Am I ready to take this on yet? And so we say that the baby is observing, but only by the 4th month, the baby's consciousness then merges into this form and becomes one. So the way of perceiving the world changes from a third party witness consciousness to a more aligned through me witnessing consciousness. It's interesting because that's when the placenta is also completely put. So if you want to look at biological nature's processes with these kind of concepts, they are quite aligned. Many times we are unable to explain what happens in the first 3 months. There are babies who parents decide not to have them, are ready to let them go, have abortions, but it doesn't work. And then there are babies in perfectly healthy pregnancies. We don't know what happened, and science has not been able to define it. But if you look at through the perspective of the baby's intent, they are perfectly understandable. And so the intention, so he's making these choices at many different spots. Conception itself is a very big choice. So the sperm and the egg might decide to join, but life may not arise. If you just simply Google calcium ion wave, there is a beautiful little video that shows that there's this very still, inert, fluidic material. And then almost like a ray, like a scanner, light moves through it, which is called the calcium ion wave. It starts from the point of where the penetration happened, scans through, and suddenly the whole still fluid moves. So there's life literally being transmutated through inert biological material. And that's the first intention. That's the baby saying, yes, I feel ready to take this one step, and takes that step. And then, of course, there is this growth, expansion, and then, it comes down the fallopian tube, and the boundary stays still of that, it's called a morula, and then a blastocyst. It's still, while the cells are exploding inside, and that kind of compression, and then it bursts out of that and embeds into the mother's lining. In the lining, how is it being received? So the mother on the cellular level, go to biology of belief, with that intention of receiving this baby, even if she's not planning this baby, what is her belief system? Where is her intention at? Does she see herself as the mother? Is welcoming that baby. We know that when a foreign particle comes into our body aggressively fights it. Therefore, it has to be the intention, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously, of the mother to welcome this baby, to allow him to kind of embed in and find and also produce these blood vessels that go towards it saying, I'm ready to feed you, I'm ready to give. And then the placenta begins to form, which is a part of the baby's body. And so at every step in these very early 4 weeks, the baby is making so many different choices. Where does it base its choice? Not on biology, because if 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, then every implantation should be a baby. But we don't have that. And we have to slow down, and we have to look at the mystery that this is. So I had a professor who used to call it the mysterium realm. So there is the yin, the yang, and then the mystery in the middle. And, when we were Kate White, she quotes it that babies are born, they create their bodies in the field between the two parents. So it's not just the mother's body that's giving the nutrition. The field, what is the field? Again, we are talking energetics. What is the intention? Are these two people consciously, knowingly that they have a baby, changing their attitude to becoming parents, supportive of each other? Of course they will disagree. Of course there will be disagreement, and the baby can handle that. But what is the larger picture? And then we come back to the larger picture being unconditional love. We don't have to change another person or ourselves to love ourselves or another person. All we need to do is to find the space big enough to embrace them and welcome them and accept them as they are. And so that again comes back to the same energetics which I in the beginning decided to call intention. And that intention will then decide as the baby shapes his in the first 8 weeks, the entire body is created. It's called embryology. And then that shapes with that central intentional field, the body will shape around it. Part of that field is biological. So all humans look like us, midline, two eyes, nose. We don't find noses and ears stuck in different places. So there's a biological field which shapes our form. But the nuancing of our psyche, of our spiritual beliefs, of our being welcomed into the world are all tuned on the intention of the mom and the dad and the baby resonating with it. And that might be what we may call a conscious conception, but you might not be conscious of it. So, you may not be aware that you are consciously inviting this baby. It could be a simple thing of, when you look at a baby picture, you feel love. Interestingly, in old times, if they showed pregnancy, and even lots of people did it at home, they put all these cute baby
Cute baby
pictures.
photos.
And the reason I find this so fascinating is because I explored it after I had a spontaneous experience of it. One morning I woke up and I felt like the only most important thing in the world for me is to have a baby. And soon enough, I kind of organized my life to receive the baby, which also included giving up my job before I even, tried for having a baby. So we had a fairly good life, intimate life, but we weren't really thinking of having a baby. But when the thought came, that particular day, I told my boss I want to leave work because, I'm going to have a baby, and he thought I was pregnant. But in my intention, I had offered myself, and then 3 months I truly enjoyed myself. It was almost as if I wanted to feel what Divya was before I held my baby in my hands. And then 3 months later, I conceived. And then, of course, ever since, there has been no looking back. But to put into words that sense in you, that knowing in you, is very, very difficult. But if I look at it, it's a sensation that arises from an energetic field, and that was maybe intention. And then, of course, I had put pictures of my husband as a child on the wall instead of cute baby pictures. And if anybody has ever seen my son, he's a carbon copy of my husband. So, it's interesting. We can kind of link the dots. Our eyes can see the patterns retrospective, in hindsight. But our experience at that time, my experience at that time, definitely goes in this direction. I truly believe that. And then I started exploring it with trauma work, with pre and perinatal psychology, with working with moms and babies. And it has been the greatest sense of saying that nothing is truly unintentional. Even not consciously holding an intention there could be an intention. And that is why I think a large part of us seek purpose in life. We want to get aligned with ourselves. Our health resonates better. Simply, our nervous system resonates better when we are well aligned, which means that we are constantly aware and mindful of the sharp edges in ourselves. Somebody says, oh, Divya, I need you to do this at this time. I politely say yes, but I feel a frisson of anger. That's my sharp edge. The minute I pay attention to that, that's aligning with yourself. It's not such a dramatic, you have to take sannyas for 3 years before you can actually align yourself. And then when you start paying attention to yourself every step of the way, that becomes who you are. That becomes a sixth sense in you, which is constantly present as a guiding force. And I'm sure if I ask our viewers today, our listeners today, did you have an experience like this? Majority of them, well, 100% of them have had the experience, but
True.
maybe 95% of them are even aware of at
Aware
least
of it.
one such experience. So let's open it up to a little bit of a discussion and say questions or any comments which you may have experienced, not just in terms of conception, but in some sense of your own intention arising. You had thought of something and it came to you, or it happened miraculously. things like that. Has it
So
happened to you,
before we do
Tanvi?
that, there's a comment which Anshika has made, and she's saying, doesn't the intention of mom and dad, isn't the intention there all through and not just during conception, during pregnancy and later?
It is
So
all
does
true.
that,
It is all true. That is why so many women conceive even without planning it. Planning pregnancy is a very new phenomenon. You know, women actually, before most of them even realized and planning, found themselves pregnant. We would always like to go back and say, we are talking of times, how was it at that time? What did these women feel about themselves? Somehow we find that negative narratives find a lot of um, hold in our society, in our everyday talk and discussions. But simple things were also there in those times. Women were simple and they were joyful, and they took pleasure. We can argue that they were programmed, but we are all programmed. So let's put that aside, whether it's programmed one way or the other. But because our human minds are such that they can be programmed, we are all constantly taking in information from outside and being programmed. We also have a negative bias, so we pick up the negative things faster. But think of a simple life where you went with the flow of who you were. And of course, there was programming, but was it joyful? Were you hearing that internal sharp edge, or was there a certain smoothness? Was there an ability to sit back and look back and get a smile on your face for what you had done in that day, or with your life, or as parents, or whatever it is? Small period of time, long period of time. Can we sit back and look back and say, that was okay. It wasn't great. I mean, you don't have to aspire for it. That was okay. I can be with that. And if I can be with that, perhaps the next step will open up for me. Sometimes when you sit with it and look back and say, well, that was okay, but truly it didn't have much meaning for me. And that's the programming jumping in. There you go, I did that because it was the thing to do. I went with the flow. But now I don't feel that that was really a good fit for me. Even that is becoming aware of your programming. Once you become aware, you can change anything. But how many of us are able to actually sit with ourselves? Forget do the rest of the work. And if we are, then maybe take a moment or two to just enjoy the fact that we can sit with ourselves and let your own intention arise. And you'll feel it. Okay, any questions for me?
so one is, does unwilling conception impact a baby's development?
Long and short answer, yes, resoundingly. It does. But let's define unwilling first, right? So there's the intention of the mom, the intention of the dad, the intention of the baby. Now for the mom and baby, for the mom who's saying, I don't really want a child right now, and still conceives, there are many pathways that conception can take place. Will also depend on how the relationship is. So I'm going to tell you a little story, very personal. I won't be taking any names, but absolutely true. I was supporting a mom who's had a baby, and the baby was 4 months old. And they decided to, she didn't want another child, but she conceived because things happened. And whatever their family story was, she really didn't want that child. And there was a lot of pressure from our home saying, no, you have the child, there are other, we'll bring them up together, etc., etc. So she came to me, and this is a very tricky subject to say that, what should I do? And so we talked about it, and I said, why don't you talk to the baby? And she said, there's no way. I've been begging the doctor before she told my family that I don't want this child, and she didn't support me. And now my family knows, and I can't fight all of them, and I have a small child, and what should I do? I said, talk to the baby. Tell the baby truthfully where you're at in life, but make sure you let the baby know that I love you, but I really, in my mortal capacity, my human capacity, I can't receive you right now. So help me. At a 12-week scan, the baby had died. Then said, yeah, baby. It was a very tough situation. A few years later, she decided to have a child. Now, everybody told her that, now you might have trouble conceiving. Not at all. She just reminded that baby, I'm ready for you now. Okay. So does it impact the baby? If the baby can be so sensitive, we know from research now that if babies don't feel welcome in the time of their conception, the time of their implantation, the time that they are discovered. So it's interesting because now William Emerson talks about actually physical form reflecting how he was received. So this baby, he says, when they walk into my room for therapy, he's a psychologist. So he said, when somatic psychologist, when they walk into my room, by looking at their shape, I can say whether they were welcomed into the world or not. And then he explains it. He said at 3 weeks, or when you about 10 days past the time of your period, which would be about 2 to 3 weeks of gestational age for baby, you discover that you're pregnant. And then, of course, everybody have ambivalence, so we're not judging anyone. But for some moms in really difficult situations might say, oh no, I don't want that child, or I don't feel welcome, or the father behaves that way. And the mother's body feels that rejection. So there's a particular shape to the embryo, and their spines are held in that shape. And he says, just by looking at the way that baby, the person, the adult walking in, we go back and say, okay, tell me about when you were conceived, or what were your beginnings on this earth? So literally, because the shock is so much, he has, from that energetic frequency, the shape of the body arises. And this is what is happening. So this isn't about putting pressure on people to say, oh, you have to now only be happy, or you have to welcome, because we are not talking about a parent or things that you are showing to the world. We're talking about a deep inner quality. And the reason I talked about unconditional love is that if you cannot love yourself as you are, challenged, and with whatever situation you're facing in life, or whoever you are as a person, embrace it, don't judge it. And let your child see your authentic self. Offer yourself in its authenticity to say, this is who I am, but my intention is to love you. That's when the magic happens. So it isn't that you're going to get the best version of yourself. You are the best version of yourself the minute you accept it. One of our biggest problems in the world is judgment, is lack of acceptance. When we feel that we come up against that judgment, we put a wall up. So we are always our best self. We are a living representation of our life's challenges, joys, sadness, sorrows, fears. Why? It's a unique canvas. Why should it not be accepted as it is for who it is? So first person to accept it is you. When you start accepting yourself, that ripples out to acceptance of everybody, which also means forgiveness comes in. But you're this honest human being that is offering himself. You know how you offer yourself to God? You go there with no pretense, hopefully, leaving the rituals aside. You go there with no pretense and you say, here I am. And because there is a thread that goes because there is the thread of divine within you, you're accepted as you are. It's the same way you offer yourself to the child, and be in acceptance of that. So this isn't about, oh, I had that experience, because the beauty of human form is that the repair possibility is always there. We talk about repair in terms of not having the perfect thing, but taking from the Japanese art of kintsugi. What they do is when they break and, say a bowl breaks, they don't say it's broken. They put the pieces together with and put a golden lacquer on it. So the new piece is unique and has a beauty of its own. So our challenges are, what we might judge as mistakes and shortcomings, our awareness is that golden lacquer on it. Our acceptance is putting it together into one piece of us. And then we say, oh, it's more beautiful than before because we have all these cracks on it, which our awareness is the golden lacquer that it's shining. And that's what we're offering to the baby. That's a part of our intention. Actually, that is a part of our intention of being alive as a human being.
So there is a comment saying, so does that mean that there can be a relationship between pregnancy intention and miscarriage or certain issues during childbirth?
So now this becomes like, you're responsible because you're on your own journey, right? And then the father's on his own journey, and that baby who's choosing you is on his own journey. So the challenges you face in life are not the negatives of life. They're passages of life that you need to move through. Now, one way or the other, the wheel of time moves and you do move through. But at every moment, you can make a choice of doing it with grace or not. I think we're far too caught up in doing it right, in having it ideal, perfect, good, these really positive words that become a prison for us. How about we let that go also for the moment and see, okay, so if we've made a few mistakes, or if we have, okay, but that's who I was at that moment of time. Can I accept that? If I have trouble with conception, what is the grace I can find in it? How can I, because my offering was not about owning a child, but my offering was about offering love. So it's still unconditional. I'm still offering it. Whether somebody comes or not, because it's unconditional, it cannot be linked to it. But as a human being, I've had a loss. Can I hold that loss with grace and not dismiss it? Not say, oh, never mind, I'll try again. No, just pause with that moment and say, oh my God, that hurt. And what does that hurt tell me about myself? Where is it that I need to heal myself? Where is it that I need to nurture myself, not protect myself, because we don't want to put up a wall yet again. Where is it that I need to nurture myself? Who is there who can join me on this human journey of nurturing myself? Because once I learn to heal and nurture myself, that is a part of my offering as a mother or a father to the baby, who I'm still inviting. But again, we need to keep getting back to ourselves. Because underneath all we know is the unknown, and underneath is the frequency that actually brought us into this world. That our song, our tune, our frequency, our vibration is always true for us. Okay.
Anyone has any questions? You can just put it up on the in
And
the chat
everybody who's
box.
had that experience of knowing, deep knowing. Of course, then the questions come later, how do you know this, that, and the other? But that sense of knowing, we've all felt it many, many times. It's a part of who we are as humans. Do you have any questions?
So there's one question which I'm not sure. It's just I feel it's not a complete question. It says, what behavioral characteristics of a baby gets impacted? Maybe she's trying to say that if it's an unplanned, pregnancy or
So
unplanned
unplanned
baby. So,
pregnancies can be very joyous. Planned pregnancies can be very tough, challenging. There is no formula. But a
but
loved
she's
baby,
asking that,
yeah,
yeah,
but a loved
will
baby, a baby who's loved. Not like, oh, I'm going to do things right and that's not love, but just feels love, is always buffered from all the negative impacts to some extent or the other. And most importantly, a baby who's welcomed, wanted, loved, looks at the world with open arms because, I'm invited, I'm welcomed, doesn't It trusts the world, and that translates into all relationships, into their self-esteem with themselves, which is self-esteem, so many different ways. It's very difficult to, and I think it's a disservice to human beings to kind of block them into small, narrow traits. Uh, how we are and who we are and how we respond, whether it for the other person perceptually may be good or bad, are the two sides of the same coin, because I'm the same person. And also my behavior, a lot of people think that behavior is personality is controllable, but it isn't, because we know from our nervous system study that in situations when we are feeling threatened, and that perception of threat is quite nuanced because it comes from how we were welcomed into the world, what our experiences in the world, it's very nuanced. But when we feel threatened, we do not, behave or we respond with behaviors or actions which are protective of us, survival, which also includes, giving up or complying or fighting back or checking out, escaping. These are simple defense behaviors, not to be judged. But if you see that happening, whether in adulthood, whether in childhood, even when infants, you have to say, oh my God, what is going on with this person, human being's nervous system, that they're responding like that? Because in their true nature, human beings have empathy, compassion, love. These are innate qualities that we have. It's like saying that cheetahs are predators. Yeah, humans are empathetic. It's an innate quality. How that quality is suppressed or is stripped away from us, or we lose access to it, depends on the layers of our experience into the world. So does every experience will matter, including the love of our parents, how we are received, how we are looked after, how we are cared for. We see ourselves through our parents' eyes. When we made that intention to come into this world, we have chosen them. We have trusted them to look after us. But it's not so. We also know who they are. And maybe somehow to work through some of our own spiritual growth issues, we might choose them still. Or we may come bearing gifts for them, that their personalities or their experience have not been of love, but feeling the love of a child might transform them. That is so true for parents. And so we might be coming, the child may be coming as a teacher, as a mentor, as a guide for the parents, or they're choosing the parents to go through a certain phenomena they want to experience in the mortal world, because not everything can be experienced without our body and our senses, which is a gift of this world, our human form, our body. So our spirit journeys and experiences and learns and grows through our body. It's not separate from our body. Unfortunately, a lot of times we feel that when we deny the body, we serve the spirit. But that's not true. We don't serve our spirits by denying our body. We serve our spirits by recognizing our bodies. Because remember, our bodies were created in the vibration of our spirit, our intention, our frequency. So by acknowledging our bodies, by looking at the relationship we have with our bodies, we know our own spirit. How else would you know your spirit? Yeah. And therein somewhere is the importance of our intention and our choice of being in this world.
Awesome. So that was quite, something new for me as well. So
today, for today, you have to give up your to-do list for your children. If you're pregnant, forget your to-do list. Tune in to your body. You will be so surprised that from a very early age, a lot of us do not feel our bodies, because the sensations that arise as prenates in the womb, as babies during birth, as newborns, and the things that happen to us are so overwhelming that our brain, our nervous system disconnects from our bodies too, because our experience of the world is through the body, whether it's our sensory organs or is through sensations in our bodies. And those become so difficult that we disconnect. So many of us are disconnected. So our first intention, if you're going to have a child, because we want a spirit to get embodied, into human form is to come into our own bodies. And then perhaps that's the first step of that intention.
Right. Great. So anyone has any comments, any questions, we can take them up now. Else, we are going to see you next Tuesday. And also, as you all are aware, that we have coffee cons going on right now. The entire month of August, we have invited a lot of our guests talking about different topics. And these conversations are at 9 p.m. If you would want to view the conversations, the upcoming conversations, you can just follow us on our Facebook or YouTube channel. Our Facebook is mychildfirst20 and Facebook YouTube channel is mychildfirst. So you can either follow us there and view the conversations. If you would want to view the previous conversations, you can just register on our e-learning platform. It's elearning.birthbonds.com. And if you're following us on Insta, most of the information is available on the Insta handle as well. So we have very, very interesting conversations this week. So tonight we have Jyoti from Kyola Wellness, and she will be talking about the importance of bonding with the baby during baby massage. So that is one of the interesting topics. And then we have Barbara Harper and Barbara Decker, one talking about water birth and the other one talking about prenatal bonding. So yeah, so that's our lineup for this week.
Also, Tanvi, I want to tell our viewers that this was such an inspirational coffee con, and then this talk came up, and as I was thinking about today, we are now all set to go live with our Sentient Baby program, which is for pregnant moms to get an awareness of how the baby is not just developing physically, but this rich human growth happening. And so that we will have more news for everybody about our Sentient Baby program, which is also on our e-learning platform. And stay tuned in.
Yes. So thank you very much for attending our Talking Tuesdays and being a part of our Talking Tuesdays every Tuesday. We look forward to having you and seeing familiar faces coming back and every Tuesday. So it's really really rewarding for us in a way that through these conversations we are able to make any difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you all next Tuesday. Bye bye.